What's going on, my friends? Welcome back to this week's episode of the virtual Youth Professional Skills Development Program. And whether it's your first week on board with us or you're returning, welcome either way. We're super glad that you guys are on this journey with us on our fourth week. This is week 4, May 25th, 2020. So before we jump into things here, I just wanted to let you guys know we're thankful that you guys have been on board with us, or this would be your first week that you have decided to embark on this journey with us. We'll be here for a few more weeks. Next week we have something a little bit different planned, so make sure you tune in for that. Videos go live Mondays at noon. Like you're finding this video right now, we have about a 10 or 15 minute video every week covering a topic regarding how to grow as a professional in your teenage years. So hopefully you guys have learned something new if you have been on board with us thus far, and if not, I think today we'll bring something to the table for everyone. So we'll go ahead and jump right into that right now. So today's topic might be something new for you, or if you have been a member of the Youth Professional Skills Development Program in the past, this is a topic we definitely have covered, but it's something that I believe is one of the most important things of your professional life. So we're going to cover it a little bit today. This is not going to be a deep dive by any means, just a general overview of a topic, like I mentioned, that I feel is very important as a professional, and I think everybody should have at least background knowledge on. This is going to be a topic that is very relevant to you if you are in the upper age range of this program, 16 or 17, you're eligible to be working, at least in Maryland. So having some knowledge of this topic will definitely help you out if you don't already. So that topic is resume writing. And some of you might already know what a resume is. Some of you might already have one started. I know a lot of the participants in the Youth Professional Skills Development Program have written resumes and gotten feedback from me on them. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, or maybe for those of you who just need a refresher, that's what today is going to be all about. So looking forward to jumping into this topic with you guys. There will be a weekly question, as always, somewhere in the slideshow, so make sure you guys are staying on top of that, figuring that out, and as always, the link is down below in the description for you to submit the weekly question response. So resume writing, as the picture there describes. I'm good at stuff, and that is sort of meant to be a little bit of humor, but that is a pretty good overview of what a resume is. So we're going to jump into that right now. Resume basics. What is a resume? We're going to discuss a couple of the big topics here, such as what is its purpose, what does it represent, and what should the overall feel of a resume be, and how should it be read or interpreted by the person receiving it. So a resume, its purpose, it is a summary of you on paper. So it might sound a little bit silly, but it is a summary of your experience, your qualifications, your information, and it is designed to be a way to introduce yourself to an employer or a boss in the event that you are applying for a job or needing to show somebody what you are made of, and the things that you've been involved with through work, through school, stuff like that. So it is a summary of you as a professional. And it represents your accomplishments, your experiences, like I said, through work or through school, and just your overall qualifications. And the objective of a resume, like I said, is to really just summarize yourself in order to have a source of information for a boss or an employer, or if you go to apply for a job online, you are most likely going to be asked to upload a copy of your resume so that when the hiring manager goes to look at your information or your application, they'll have a copy of what you think represents you best, and that would be in the form of a resume. And the general feel for the person that's reading it, and when you're writing it, the tone of your writing, the structure of it, should come across to that person, the manager or the boss that might be hiring you. Professional, obviously, is a professional document, so that should be the feel of it. But it should also be clear and concise and to the point. There are a lot of folks out there who just write a ton of information, and that can definitely be a little bit overwhelming as somebody's reading it. So I will get into that in a few minutes as well when we talk about the structure of a resume. And finally, it should be directed toward the job that you're applying for. So while you might have a lot of qualifications or a lot of skills that make you an awesome individual, they might not be specifically best applied for the job that you're looking to get into. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So I have a quick question for you guys that kind of follows up on the last point I was making about people just write a ton of information on their resume. And that's a pretty easy mistake to make. But I'm going to tell you why you don't want to make that mistake right now by answering the question, how long do most employers spend looking at your resume? So put yourself in the shoes of a manager who's getting a job application with a resume attached, and they have to read through that resume and that application and make a decision about whether or not they want to hire somebody. So when they see a resume, assuming that you're not the only person applying, they typically spend a statistical average amount of time looking at your resume specifically. And that length of time might surprise you. 10 to 15 seconds is what most people would say how long they spend looking at it. So if you imagine reading down a paper with a bunch of information on it, it's really hard to pick out details in 10 or 15 seconds, especially when somebody might be very well qualified, and as a result, they might have a ton of information on their resume. So that's definitely an important point to talk about, is that while we're going through this topic today, keep in mind that we are going to cover a lot of information that should be on your resume, but somebody down the line might not spend a whole lot of time looking at it, so you need to be clear and you need to be concise. So some more important points to cover. How long should your resume be? Like I mentioned, it's obviously a typed document that a boss or a manager is going to be looking at. So how long should it be? Knowing they're only going to spend 10 or 15 seconds reading down the page, it should be shorter than you think. And I recommend to start out, especially when you likely don't have a lot of qualifications to describe, it should be about one page typed. So a lot of you guys are using Microsoft Word or Google Docs for school. So when you guys are typing an essay or a paper, something like that, using that same software, you should type about a page worth of information. So not a lot of space if you think about it, especially when you're thinking about, well, it should be clear and easy to read. It shouldn't be a bunch of words smashed together. So there's a lot to consider there. What items should a resume contain? And that is something we'll talk about through the rest of this presentation, and the kinds of things that you might not want to include on your resume. So things you would want to include, or things it should contain, obviously is information about you. And things you might not want to include would be things not relevant to the job you're applying for, or things that might be considered inappropriate or excessive information that the person probably doesn't need to know. So we won't get too much into what you don't want to put on there, but when we focus on what you should, that should help you have a clearer understanding of what the goal of the resume is going to be. So we'll talk about now the anatomy of resume writing. So that is, what is in a resume? What is on the paper? What are the basic elements? And they are personal information, education, informal training, work experience, awards or achievements, volunteer experience, interests and activities, and then your skills and your certifications. So you guys should have hopefully an understanding of just at face value what some of those categories include. But if not, we'll go ahead and jump into that a little bit more in depth right now. So your personal information should be your name, obviously. And this should be your full name, not a nickname, not your name abbreviated, your full legal name that's on your birth certificate or your learner's permit or your passport. Your address should be your home address, somewhere that you currently reside, and it should be somewhere that you consider to be a permanent home. Maybe if you live between houses with different parents or guardians, pick a place where if somebody needed to send you mail, you would be able to receive it, no questions asked. and then your phone number. If you don't have a cell phone, which I imagine a lot of you probably do, but if not, feel free to put down a home phone if you guys have like a landline at your house, somewhere that if you were needed, if an employer needed to reach you regarding your job application or your resume, they'd be able to get in touch with you. And same with an email address. That should be something that you have easy access to, not something that all of your junk emails go to, or that you only check like once a week. If you're expecting to apply for a job or hear feedback about an application, you definitely want to have easy access to that email address. So the next category is education and formal training. And for a lot of you, this is going to be your most recently achieved level of education. So I'm assuming it's probably going to be middle or high school, because that's the age group that this program is designed for. But maybe you're a senior in high school and you're taking some college classes, and that's awesome. And that would be something you'd want to include in this section as well. Or maybe you've received some kind of formal job training, which probably will be down the line for a lot of you, but when the time comes to update this document, you would want to include that information as well. The next portion of that would be when you went there, how long you attended, whatever the degree or the level of education or the qualification that you earned. So for high school, as an example, you would have earned your high school diploma if you graduate. And then when did you earn or complete the degree or the program you were in? So your graduation date from high school or college when that time comes. And then the next big component, which is very important, arguably one of the most important sections of your resume, is going to be your work experience. So this is the places that you have worked in the past, if anywhere. And if you obviously are going to apply for your first job, there wouldn't be anything in this category. So your employer's names would be the company where you worked, the location would probably just be the city and the state that you were in. So if you're using the community center as an example, the Fort Ritchie Community Center is in Cascade, Maryland. When you worked there, so dates in which you were employed, and then the description of your roles. So a summary of your job title and what you did there. So significant accomplishments also could include if you received any awards, or if the business received some sort of recognition while you were there and you were part of earning that. Those would be things you'd want to include as well. Next would be awards and activities. And I know in school, there are definitely lots of opportunities to earn recognition through good grades or through your extracurricular activities. So this is a section that should apply to most of you guys. Whether, as I have listed there, it's an academic achievement or something extracurricular, which could be in sports or in a club or a group that you're part of through school. Those would be things you want to put down there. An example of that could be if you're maybe in the Boy Scout program and you've earned an Eagle Scout award. That's a great option for something to put there. Or if you've participated in maybe the all-county orchestra and your group earned outstanding performance marks for that, you're obviously welcome to put that down there too. And then the organization that awarded that for you and when you earned it should be included as well. Second to last category here is your interests and your activities. And this should be a shorter section, just giving an employer a look into your life, the kinds of things that you're interested in. And these should be obviously relevant and appropriate. And this would include, this is a big category that a lot of employers look for, is volunteer experience. So that shows that you're willing to go out of your way, go do things that for no pay at all, to benefit the community, to benefit groups that might be less fortunate than you. So that's a really big one. I encourage you guys all to look for volunteer opportunities in your community. And that would be a great thing you can list on your resume in the future. And then a little bit of overlap from the last section there. So if you did earn any extracurricular awards or achievements, you should put down your involvement in those organizations in this section of interests and activities. So again, clubs, sports, groups like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. And then finally, if you're a member of any organizations, which could overlap with the last category as well. So if you are in the Boy Scouts, maybe what troop you're in, where it's located, that kind of thing. And then finally, skills and certifications. We have offered some of these courses, such as CPR First Aid, to members of this program a few years ago. But if you have received certification in CPR or first aid, whether through another organization, maybe a workplace, that's a great skill to list here. That's a skill that a lot of employers will require you to have anyway, whether they pay for it once you start or you have it already. That's a great reason for them to consider you. Also, things like lifeguarding. Maybe if you're applying to work at a summer camp, the community center has a summer camp. While we don't have a pool, if you were applying for a camp that did, having lifeguarding experience would be a great skill and certification. And if you did it as a job, you obviously could list that under work experience as well. And then finally, a great broad category I encourage you guys all to list on your resume, considering in the 21st century, you guys all have some form of computer skills, and that's awesome. List that on your resume, that you have experience using computers in whatever degree of skill that is, you should definitely list. So that about wraps it up, and we'll get into the weekly question for this week. And I want to just know from you guys, what's something that you could put on your resume if you don't have one already, or if you do, something maybe you could add, or something that's on there already that you're super proud of. Something that if an employer said, tell me the one thing on your resume that you're most excited about or most proud about, let me know that in this week's weekly question. I want to hear from you guys some of the things that you've accomplished and things that you're super excited about. As I mentioned in the awards and achievement section, you would maybe list an Eagle Scout. For me, that's one of the things on my resume that I'm most proud of, and I've actually gotten recognition from places I've applied saying, we noticed that you were an Eagle Scout. So it definitely matters what you put on there, and some things will get you recognized. So don't hesitate to put things on there that get you excited, and let me know this week what those things might be. So that's it for us this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will be here next Monday at noon, live here on our YouTube channel. So make sure you jump in. You guys have until this Sunday to submit the question that we just talked about. And we do have something different coming up next week. So make sure you stick around for that. If you have any questions, reach out to me. My email is there. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys in the next one.